So with me today, I have an amazing human being with a transformational journey. We should talk about Cory Warfield. Full disclosure to all the viewers: you're watching this. If you're watching this live, we recorded this earlier today. If you're watching this after the fact, it was recorded earlier today. Cory, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and to everybody watching, hi from the past.
So Cory, and again, for thanks for joining You Got It. For the people who are joining for the first time, You Got It standing for unabashedly giving all the time. And I host guests who follow that mantra to the T. And Cory, I know we're going to talk about yours, but I want to start off with a post of yours from last week, right? Actually, a month ago. It says, no matter how big or successful we get, we can and should always help the little guys. Agree, this act of kindness, and this is LeBron James actually helping this steward, this waitress who accidentally spilled drinks on the viewers who were sitting on the very first row, and what could have been one of the worst days in her career turned out to be a heartwarming moment because LeBron goes and actually helps her and hugs her in front of everybody else. So, and you had talked about this, right? In your 20-year former career as a waiter, I had several moments that remind me of this amazing video. I will never forget any of them. Now that I've transitioned into tech, specifically restaurant tech, and now often being attended to rather than doing the attending anymore, it's interesting to see how peers and colleagues of mine treat the service, etc., can be quite eye-opening. So, again, very powerful, right? Because you've been unabashedly talking about your journey as well, again, where you came from and the roots that you had to where you are today. So talk a little bit about who you are for the people who don't know you, which I think is very few people out there, but your journey, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. I think I'd love to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of those stories for those that do know who I am. Especially, I know I do a lot of content around restaurant service, restaurant tech anymore, but specifically, I'll shout out a couple people that made me feel like LeBron did. So I had an experience with Vince Vaughn, the actor. I was waiting on him, and
Wow.
things weren't going so well. He gave me an opportunity to turn it around for the establishment, and he had his table give me a round of applause, a standing applause, which was amazing. I also had Michael Jordan, and I'm here in Chicago, so that was a big deal. He and his ex-wife Juanita were in my private room at the last steakhouse I was at for his daughter's birthday, his daughter Jasmine. And so again, there was a situation in the room that could have gone poorly, and I was in charge of the service of that part of the restaurant, and so I was able to come in and make that right for someone was a childhood hero, but someone in Chicago is just a local legend. And then one other experience I can mention was with the rapper and a waiter, or a rapper and an actor, Kelsey Grammer and T.I. the rapper,
Wow.
that I think still makes music, but from some time ago, they were shooting an HBO show together. I believe it was called Boss. And so they and their staff were there. And it was a bigger room, and there's a lot more to the story, but some people at the party kind of got a little bit crazy, and we had to step in and make things right. And again, they both recognized, my staff and myself in that moment. So, none of them are LeBron, although he's been into the restaurant and things like that. But that video just warmed my heart. So much of it does. So I spent 20 years working in restaurants. I kind of got myself off of rock bottom 23, 24 years ago, washing dishes in a restaurant. And I became a busboy, and then I did a waiter and bartender, sommelier. I ended up managing some national concepts for some time. Went back to the service side of things for many years. But as I was getting closer to 40, I was really getting burnt out on that. And, it's fantastic and the money was great, but you still kind of feel like a servant in the castle. And so there are problems in the industry. A lot of them are kind of, things that technology and data can solve for. And so I found one of those more niche problems, and I helped create a software company some years ago to solve for that at restaurants around the country. And so that was kind of my first step out of restaurants and into technology. And one of the ways I was able to scale that concept and then, subsequent ventures of mine and kind of, live the life that I want to live was through LinkedIn and taking LinkedIn seriously. And, at this point, tens of millions, if not hundred, million views on my content there, talking a lot about kindness, like the You Got It concept, and meeting amazing people around the world like yourself.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot, right? For somebody like looking at you, and all you can see is the surface, but then the story that you talk about is so powerful. Let's get into that, right? Which is one of the biggest things that people struggle with, and I ask this of each of my You Got It guests, is do I have anything worthy of giving? So that's imposter syndrome, that okay, are people even going to listen to me? Am I worthy? So how does somebody who is always struggling with, okay, am I going to be heard? Am I going to be am I impacting people's life? How do they get past that first hurdle when to start giving back?
Yeah, I mean, it's conceptually it's hard to give back if you don't feel as though you have anything to give, and so it really does come from kind of a place of just contentment. Sometimes I speak not up or against, but I speak for the other side of personal development. Sometimes I show up and tell people you don't need to develop more, you don't need to get better, right? Everybody's chasing this better version
Yeah.
of themselves, and often that's not what's needed. Sometimes we just need to let ourselves be perfect in our imperfection, or kind of let the way that we are be incredible. And once you can get there, then you have everything to give, right? You have love, you have confidence, you have patience, you have an ear to listen to, a shoulder to lean on. But I think one of the fundamental problems, and I'm going to start talking more and more about this publicly, I've been talking about it in my smaller, personal circles, but is for people to just stop caring what other people think. Because if, I mean, it's really, it's,
Yeah.
I almost think that that's, I don't want to, be jocular about the coronavirus, but I think that's one of the other real pandemics right now, is people caring so much what other people think, and am I going to be judged? And to your point, I mean, these people, they care if they're going to be heard or seen, or if they're going to be liked. In my opinion, there's very little they can give back, right?
Yeah.
It's because anything they give, it's for something back. It's for attention, it's for validation, it's for a pat on the back, and right, so much of what you stand for with You Got It, is to give unconditionally, right? It's not a quid pro quo. It's not doing something for a result. And I'll tell you another interesting story that's just right. I worry that when I say this, sometimes people hear the wrong thing. So I want to be very clear. I never did this with the intention of give back, but when I was a waiter, and this went back to my earlier days in Chicago at the first Prime Steakhouse I was with. Uh, but I used to pass by a gentleman, and I do mean that term. He was a homeless guy, but he was a gentleman. His name was Troy, and he, quote unquote, lived on Clark and Lake, downtown Chicago, right by the train station. And he had a blanket, and he was set up there, and he had kind eyes. And I used to smile at him and say some words and give him, a couple dollars or something. And one day I gave him more money than I'd ever given him. I think it was $20 American. And I went into work, and I met these guys that changed my life. And they not only tipped me thousands of dollars, but they accidentally tipped me an extra $1,000 and let me keep it. Wow. And so I saw the guy just a few days later. I was walking past that intersection. It wasn't too far from the restaurant. And if I remember correctly, it's something along the lines of like I gave him $40, right?
Mm.
And I went into work, and my manager said, "Cory, I think those guys from the other night called and asked for you to be their waiter there." Sure enough, they came in, and they gave me a really big tip. Well, I then, without even realizing it, I started to give this guy Troy $50, and at a certain point, I was even giving him $100 bills. But I realized at a certain point, maybe 7, 8 times, every time I would see him and give him money is the time that these guys would come into the restaurant, and I would get it back. I mean,
Wow.
almost mathematically tenfold, if not more. And so it's kind of a metaphor, or an analogy, where when we do give without expecting. Now, I do want to be clear. I think if I'd given him $100 hoping to go in and make $1,000,
Yeah.
I might not have, I might not have gotten it. So
Yeah.
I do want people to be careful. You can't have ulterior motives, but it is just a overwhelming certainty in my life that when we give without expecting, that it does come back. And so, right, we can do it without a dollar associated, but it is important also to know that when we put good into the world, there's more good in the world. And when we put more love into the world and less judgment, and right, it's not judging others and it's not judging ourselves. And it comes back to this point of, just being okay with how things are, right? And there's a book called Be Here Now that I think is really powerful as well. Meditation and yoga, all these different practices, I think somewhat encompass that. So that was a very long answer to your question.
No, you touched upon something which was actually my next question. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that, right? Which is ROI. The entire business universe, MBA schools, any company you're part of, return on investment. So you put X amount, how much did you get back, right? And here we are talking about the opposite, which is you will get the returns, but it has to be disassociated with the investment, right? And exactly to your point about you giving him $100 and it's coming back in spades, but you never anticipated that, you never looked forward to that. So how does somebody get past that ROI mindset which is being drilled into everybody who has any iota of the business that they are seeking or part of?
It's a very good question. I think there has to be a disassociation, right? So maybe if you're on the clock 9 to 5 and you're getting paid a salary to dial for dollars and try to sell something, maybe your expectation is for every hour you work, you get $15. But then maybe it's what are you doing from the 5 to 9, right? Maybe it's when you're not on the clock, that's when you can do whatever you want to do. And at first, I mean, I encourage people that don't, maybe have a lot of money to write a check to a charity, or maybe don't even have a lot of time to volunteer. There are a couple really easy ways to do nice things. You can smile at people, right? Like and when you make eye contact and smile and it's not creepy and people don't wonder, oh, is this person trying to flirt with me? Yeah. That's bringing happiness and joy, right? Then there are other things you can do. What I love to do, and I do all the above anymore, but I like to shout people out on social media. Now, it means a little bit more for me at this point because I have a huge following and I get massive engagement. But I've been doing that since nobody knew who I was, in many of the different circles and platforms. And I think, right, that's a great way that takes very little time and very little money. Now it does take some humility, right? Because you can't in the same breath try to sell something, right? So all you're doing, right? I think a lot of people, go in for the kill. At the same moment that they really should just be, potentially putting good out into the universe, the multiverse, right. But I think there has to be some, acknowledgement that people do need to keep a roof over their head and pay their bills. But other than that, I mean, what are we doing with the rest of our life? And it's, it's not just what are we doing for our kids, but what are we doing for our neighbors' kids that might not even practice the same religion or speak the same language?
Right. No, it's very true. I think that you mentioned the word quid pro quo, right? And again, it's one of those things which is, okay, I've done something for you. What are you doing for me? And again, back to something powerful that you said, which is you do something for somebody and that person may choose to or may never be able to do something back for you, but it comes in spades from areas that you never even expected, like exactly to your point over here. So again, I mean, talk a little bit about how somebody can embrace that, which is, okay, I'm doing something for Cory, but Cory may never be able to or never want to do something for me, but it's going to come from Miss X over there, right? Which is completely in a different dimension. Again, how does somebody actually embrace that, knowing that goodness will happen, but not from where you expect it to come from?
Well, I mean, we can look at different religious books, and I think whenever people are looking for the evidence of anything, it's often going to not present itself, right? So if someone's just trying to do good for Cory to see what they're going to get good out of it, I almost would hope that they didn't get a lot of good out of it because the intention wasn't pure.
Right.
But what I can say is we can use me as an example. So someone I don't know comes and does something good for me, and I can't repay it because I don't see everything people try to do to get on my radar anymore. And frankly, 90% of what people do to get on my radar right now, there's an expectation behind it. And so, right, maybe I don't see it. What I can tell you is if someone shows up in my circle and does something that's positive or productive or nice for me, my network of 1/3 people sees that. And there's 10,000 people that want to do something nice for that person when they perceive that the intention is pure, and that, right, it puts this social capital and this goodwill out into circles that do reverberate. And I've heard of plenty of people, and probably, hundreds of them that have gotten jobs or paid work or clients through LinkedIn because they talked to somebody that they saw me tag in a post, and they said, I saw you in Cory's post. And right. So did that touch me? Not necessarily. Did it come from them doing good and putting it? Absolutely it did. And so I think that's kind of the, but you do things just to do them, and then when the results come back, it makes it so cool. You go out and do more. But I think, to your point, if people are really looking around the corner to see, well, what's coming back, right? Looking in their mailbox every hour for that $10,000 check, right? So sometimes that evidence, I mean, that in the Bible it says that faith is the evidence of things unseen, right? I mean, it's sometimes you just have to take things at at a certain vibe, I guess.
Yeah. No, very true. And again, one of the things, and again, this is, you're the poster child for this, right? Which is, you're following what Cory posts out there. There must be hundreds of thousands of people who want to get on your calendar, who want to have time with you, right? So again, from a YouGatter's perspective, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to respect your own time, your own mental health before you can give to others. So again, it's that, how do you draw boundaries without feeling that you're fending people off, right? And how do you build kindness towards yourself?
So it goes right back to that initial, not initial, but the statement that we were kind of talking about a bit ago, which is to stop caring what other people think, right? If I was worried about responding to every comment on my content, I would have to decide to not respond to any of it, right? Because I'd say it's not fair if I reply to these 30 comments and not these 500 comments. But no, I don't care about the 470 people I don't get to. If they're going to give me a hard time for not saying thank you for commenting on my post, or if they're trying to sell something and I don't have time to let them pitch me or whatever it might be, that's not going to ruin my day. I'm not going to not sleep at night, right? I'm going to consider that the 30 people I was able to get to, hopefully something productive happened from there. And if I cared about the other 470 people, I could never do it. So I think it really ties back to not caring what other people think, right? If I put out a post and I shout out 10 people, imagine how many thousands of people are upset it wasn't them. I'd much rather have made those 10 people's days and maybe their careers, or help them find that job or sell their book, and not worried about the other however many people. So I think it just comes back to being confident that when we're doing the right thing in life, that's sometimes the limits and the boundaries set themselves, right? Sometimes all we can do is just not dilute ourselves too much. We hear the phrase, you can't boil the ocean, and really just stay the course, because I think there's so many distractions in life and so many people that want to take our time, take our energy, take our resources, take our, learnings, whatever they might be, and effectively dilute us to where we can't help people. I would rather see everyone on earth help one other person than everybody try to help everybody and have no one get helped.
It's so true, right? I mean, one life impacted because of what you said, did, or taught them is a life that's changed, right? So you just mentioned something, we're getting to the end of the show, but it's just about consistency and timely giving. And I look at you and say, okay, you're on a treadmill over here, and despite your success, you're still giving back all the time. And LeBron's video was just evidence of that, which is help somebody who can't help you back, right? But the consistency aspect of it, especially when you're dissociating yourself from ROI, it's not about the views, it's not about the likes, it's not about the shares, it's about helping somebody else with your story, with your failures, with your learnings, and doing it consistently. So how does somebody get into the YouGatter mode of giving all the time, right? Without looking for evidence of immediate impact?
Well, I mean, I think it's just setting a solid foundation, right? You don't build a house on sand, you build it on rock, I would say. And I say this humbly, but it also should be said. I've had posts of mine on LinkedIn now that have made 5 figures, right? There are people that hope to make that in a month, or some people around the world even that hope to make that in a year. And so I don't say that lightly. It took me several years of putting things out daily and showing up consistently before I made a penny off of my content. And now people can find me on Influencer Active. I've helped companies go to #1 on Product Hunt. I've had helped companies, quite literally, it's a buzzword, but the reality is I've helped companies 10x their revenue streams through LinkedIn and the presence and bringing them to the right audiences with my social proof. And so, you know, there can be an end goal. People can show up authentically and with a good giving heart all the time, hoping that someday they can, you know, monetize that as well. There's a lot that can be done when the world knows who you are and when the world perceives you as a good, valuable person and an asset, right? And so I would say having a strategy and executing on that is great, but understand, you know, it's not every gesture that's going to get recognized or rewarded. And I've had death threats. I've had people that want to hate on me around the world and around my city, you know, through my acts of giving even. So, right, people see that and go, you're just trying to make money, or you're using this, you know, for personal gain, whatever it might be. So again, if I cared what those people thought, I would stop. Thank God I don't. So I think my message today, right, is just to stay the course, have a strategy that you're executing on, but also to really and truly, at least to the best of your ability, stop caring what people think about you. To anyone that's watching this right now, I hope that was articulated.
Wow, I know this was going to be an amazing show. And again, Cory, thanks for your time. Thanks for everything that you do. And special shout out to Derek Mildred, who actually made the connection to you. And he's been a YouGatter as well. And thank you, Derek, for connecting me to Cory. So Cory, stay safe. I know you have a trip coming up. Good luck. And let's keep in touch.
I would love to keep in touch with you. I love you, love what you're doing, and I love the show. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone that watched.